Hey there, friends, again. These are for the notes for 4.3, your string algorithms. This is the program that we are writing afterwards. So with this, you should have this file on Schoology. It should be able to be just clicked and dragged into your IntelliJ, and it should look just like this. So for part number 1, here we've got our strings called my school. We've got from Vikings, and the first thing that we have to do is print every other character of my school on the same exact line. So we'll be using print instead of print line. So we're going to utilize our for loops pretty much here. In general, our for loops are going to all start relatively similar. Now our I values are kind of representing the indices that we're going to. And so I think a starting value should be 0, since the first index of any string is going to be 0. Relative to the notes, what we have to do is take the variable of my school and find out how long it is. And so this is actually a method that runs because the length of a string can possibly change. So at any given time, you have to find out what the current length of it is. If any words or characters are added to it, it'll grow, or if any are taken away, it will shrink, of course. And then here's a tricky one with this one. If we want to do every other character, there are quite a few ways to approach this. One way that we could do this is we could go up by ones every single time. And with this, we would have to first kind of make a suggestion of if my number that I divide by, if I modularly divide it by 2, if this comes out to be the answer of 0, meaning is this an even number? So all the even numbered indices would then print out there, and we could run through this. Personally, I think a much easier way of doing this, though, would be to just take my variable, and instead of going up by 1s, why don't I just go up by 2s? So my indices are going to be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, so on and so forth, until I reach the end of my string as well. And from here, it's just a matter of using a system.print. Be careful when you use the SOUT function. It will give you a print line, so we want to make sure that we can run through this one. And then from here, it's just a matter of taking some substrings. So I'm going to take the variable of my school. I'm probably going to take some sort of a substring from it. The index that I'd like to start at is probably going to be the character of I, because that is the index I'd like. Where would I like it to stop? I'd actually like it to stop at the very next index, even though that index does not technically do anything for us. It's excluded from the actual substring method itself. And from here, you can see that I do end up getting every other character. You'll notice that their space is actually included as a character. So here I'd get the F, the E, the D, I'd skip the space, and I'd get the capital V that comes along with it. So we should get Fed Vikings as our final output for that one going forwards. And then we're going to kind of just keep running this file over and over as we run or add to it as we're going to keep running our file as we add to it so we can see the changes that are happening. Print the string my school in reverse, all the characters remaining exactly the same line. Cool. So again, we're going to utilize some sort of a for loop in this situation. This time, again, we want to probably start at the end of our list. So this means our starting variable, we're going to create another variable I. This time I want it to be at the very last item that I have. So I'm going to take the variable my school. I'm going to find out how long it is, and I'm going to subtract 1 from this. Main reason for that is if this is our word that we have here, we have indices 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So the indices are 0 through 12, but you will notice there's actually 13 characters in this. So the length of it is 13, but this S, this S does actually occur at index 12. And so that's how we kind of grab the last index of a word. From here, the values are probably going to start going down. And so we have to think of what the last index that we'd like to use is. 0 is a valid index. So we want to make sure that we stop once the number gets to -1. Again, lots of ways of doing that. I'm just going to say as long as my I value is bigger than or equal to 0, I would like to continue this loop. Once it becomes a negative value, we would exit out of it. And from here, I do want to go down 1 at a time, starting from the end and going forwards. And again, from here, we can just use our system.out, delete the print line that we see here, and use again the substring function that we have to go ahead and say I'd like to take from this variable I to I plus 1. Now some people always do have a question about these substring methods when it comes to the last letter or the last character of a string. Technically this index is 12, so my I value would be 12, and you'll notice that I say I'm starting at 12 but I'm ending at 13, and some people are like, well, 13 doesn't technically exist in this list or in this string that we have here. Correct. But because this is not inclusive, technically our substring method allows us to go one past, but doesn't actually give us any errors going forwards. So hopefully in this one, if we run our code, we should see the word from the Vikings printed backwards. I probably need to add just a print line in there so that they end up on different lines. And there we have it. We got our friend Vikings printed backwards. For part number 2, this one is talking, go and get out of here. This one's talking about given a string animal type, or please print the output such that the first line shows the first character, the second one adds another character, adds another character, adds another character, so on and so forth. Again, several ways to do this, but if you wanted to try this out, it's usually a pretty fun one to do. For me personally, what I would like, what you guys can do is you guys can know that you're going to start at index 0 every single time, but you guys are going to probably end at an index that is relative to your I value. As your I value keeps running or moving upwards, you can do that. Other situations, you can create an output string and just keep concatenating and adding to that. That is also an option that you have. That's probably the one that I'm going to utilize in this particular example. So again, I'm going to make a for loop. We are starting at the beginning of this word, and I believe we do have to, I think we're supposed to be given a string animal, so I'm going to make one really quickly. And my favorite animal, ooh, you know what? The aardvark is getting me. I didn't even realize this when I first typed this out, that it had 2 A's. I had no idea. It was in one of my principal's classes. They had corrected me in that because I was talking about one of the first letters of the alphabet. It's kind of funny. But we're going to take aardvark and we're going to print out every single word or every single letter of it one by one by one. Again, we're going to want to go all the way until the end of this animal's name. So we're going to find the length of this sentence, and we are once again going to go up by ones. Now from here, you want to think that there's a lot of several ways to do this. I'm going to try and do both of them at the same time. But realistically, what I'm looking at here is we can make a variable to hold on to what our sentence is going to hold or occur for us. So I'm going to start with this output sentence, and basically as I run through this, I can start adding one letter at a time over and over and over to this, and I would eventually get the word at the end called monkey. And again, we're going to utilize a lot of these substrings. So from here, I can go ahead and say, well, let me take my output variable. I'd love to concatenate or add something to that. And then in here, what I'm going to utilize is a substring. I'm going to take my animal. I'm going to use, again, the substring, very similar to what we did last time. Start your I value, go to the I value plus 1. And then it looks like I would like to print this variable out. It does look like each of these are showing up on the next line. So I am going to keep the ln in here as well. And we'll say, hey, can you go ahead and print out the output that I have? This would start off with printing off the substring here. We would then add to it the next character. So I'd get 2 letters of AA, so on and so forth. Let's take a look at what this actually produces for us. Oh, beautiful. And I forgot the enter button again. I guess we just add it right here. So this is going to make it so that this A technically shows up on the next line for us. And as we do that, we see that we've got my aardvark working its way all the way down. Beautiful. Love to see that going forwards. From here, I think what we could realistically do is if you wanted to try this again without this substring, I'm going to try and see if I can make this work really fast. Of course, we wouldn't have this here. But what we would do instead is we would probably print out some sort of a substring again. And so we could take the animal. We could use, again, a substring. This time you'll notice we always want to start at index 0. And from there, we would probably want to take the I value and add 1 to it. So for instance, this one would come through and say, okay, the first letter I'd like to start at 0, and I'd like to go to index 0 plus 1, and that would give me this character of A. The next time I'd like to start at 0, and I'd like to go to the index of 1 plus 1, which is 2, which would give me these 2 characters right here. And then this would continue the pattern over and over, and I believe if we did this correctly, we should once again see the aardvarks being printed again in the same manner. So choosing which one you want, if they both perform the same task, it's just a matter of which one you feel most comfortable with moving forwards. Part number 3, I've got this Mary had a little lamb thing. It says print out the number of times that the word little appears within this phrase. So this would be some sort of a, this would be some sort of a while loop for us. Look at this one more time. I got a couple minutes left on my, just had to check and make sure I got time for this. So we're going to try and find out all the times that we can find the word little inside this phrase that we've got here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find some sort of a target string, which we're going to look for. I believe the target we are looking for is the word little. And from here, what we're going to do is try to go ahead and calculate where this thing is. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually try to find it. Now, this is the method that we use called index of. So what we can do is we can make an integer, find out what index this is going to occur at, and we can say, why don't we take the phrase variable that we have, and why don't we find the index of this thing that we have called target. Now remember, index of will return the first instance of this. If the string does not exist in that phrase, then it'll actually give us back the number -1. So we want to continue doing this over and over and over until my value becomes the value -1. So that means that we're going to have to utilize, again, some sort of a while loop from this. Inside this while loop, I'm basically checking, hey, as long as my index does not equal the number -1, I would like to continue searching for the word little. Once it becomes -1, I am done. It is no longer existent in that. So from here, we have to kind of start counting a little bit. With counting, we probably need to make some sort of a counting variable. So I'm going to make a count. Good number to start that at would be probably 0 for us. And then going forwards, it's just a matter of checking out to see what we've got. So as long as that value did not equal -1, I believe I have successfully found some sort of a word little in there. So I'm going to go ahead and raise the count. The first thing I'm going to do, though, as you can see up here, I found the word little right here. One way to keep continuing on is that this will always find the first instance of this. So if I run this again and again and again and again, it's going to keep finding the same word little right here. What we can do then is we can take that and we can actually chop this portion of it off and find just a substring of everything else that looks like this. Sorry, let me get this out of here. Everything else that looks like this. And from here, we can kind of see where's the next idea that little shows up. So with this, we can take our phrase and we can go ahead and create a substring of it. We could set it equal to whatever it was, but a substring of where this index started. Now, be careful here, because this index is going to give me the value right here. Now, if I started my string right there again, you would notice that it would actually continue and give me this string all in together. Unfortunately, I'd keep finding the word little in the same exact spot over and over and over. So from here, we actually want to take that index and we want to make sure that we add some values to it. Now, actually from this one, you could probably just add 1 to it. So you chop off this L and you actually end up with this sentence right here, meaning the next time I find the word little would technically be 1 next after that. And again, while we do this, we would need to make sure that we update the variable of index. So we're going to copy this one more time and say, can you please find me where the index or where this target exists inside that phrase? While it's not the number -1, we add 1 to our count, and we will then chop off the L from the word little. I notice that it shows up right here. I would chop off the L. I would end up with this sentence right here. And from there, we continue this over and over and over. Once we get that value of -1, awesome, we're actually going to leave the loop altogether, and that's where we can print out some information here. So I can make a printout that says the word, let's go ahead and use our escape characters. The word little appeared count times in the phrase. And we feel very excited about this, and I think I keep always forgetting to add in some sort of an enter button. So I'm just going to put a out in there real quickly. From this, we could run it and verify that we did things correctly. It looks like the word little appears 4 times in the phrase. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb and fleece was like snow. Awesome. So we got that fully finished, good to go going forward. The rest of these, I will have to make a second video for you guys, so stay tuned.